So on both sides, we have very special privilege and pleasure to hear some Torah from Rabbi Baal, the Menahel of Hillel Yeshiva in New Jersey. I just want to say that our friendship goes back for many, many years. He looks young, but friendship goes back quite a few years. And it really is a very, I would say, unique type of friendship. It's really one that is centered around Torah. Rabbi Baal's whole life is Torah, giving shiurim, being Mabit's Torah, and also he's like part of the family. He's a Talmud Muvik of my brother. For many years he's been there, and one that really, I would say, really understands the approach in the derech. The Rav and Moshe both had many Talmidim, but really few stood out that really knew what they were doing and really understood their approach. And Rabbi Baal is certainly one that we could say really appreciates, understands, and grasps the derech. I just would say one of the little thoughts as I have them cornered here, I'm not going to get away so fast. The Rambam brings down that Sedgev Bamidbar is supposed to come out before Shavuos. This week's a little bit of a fluke. It's another problem, but it's supposed to come out before Shavuos. And everyone asks, what's Bamidbar got to do with the essence of Shavuos? Obviously, Kabbalah Torah. So one of the answers that I happened to come across with was that Torah was given in the desert. It was given in a place that was void, desolate of everything. No air-conditioned room, no lights, no comfort. Torah was given there. And the Rambam brings down that no one's punter from the shiur of Torah, no matter what. Everyone has a shiur of Torah. A rich person, a poor person, a happy person, a sad person, everyone is chayav in Torah. It's sort of like modeled after the idea of Torah is given in a place, and nothing's there but Torah. And I would just say that knowing Rabbi Baal, wherever I meet him, this Torah. I meet him at the airport, it's a chiddush, an idea. He picks me up in Florida on the way, another chiddush, another idea in New Jersey. Wherever he is, Torah's with him. And so certainly it's a very great pleasure to hear Rabbi Baal.
Thank you, Rabbi Chait. The part he left out was that actually probably some of the first Torah that I heard that I really enjoyed was actually out of his mouth. So I was a teenager younger than you guys, and he was a Rabbi at the camp that I was at. So he talks about me in one way. I think of him in a totally different way. Talmud to a Rabbi, not the other way. Okay, let's get to some learning here. I wanted to do a sugya, a short sugya, on Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph and Brachas. And the reason why I thought it's really a good thing to share with you is if at the very least it will hopefully enhance your everyday tefillah and your understanding of Kriat Shema and the brachos of Kriat Shema. So that's a good place to start. Before we start reading the Gemara, so in the morning, how many brachos of Kriat Shema are there? Three, correct. Okay, so what are the three brachos? First one is? Okay, good, you're correct. Yotzer Or, which ends at Yotzer HaMa'oros. Okay, second bracha? Ahava Rabbah. Okay, and the last bracha begins? No, last bracha. It ends with Gal Yisrael. How does it begin? What are the beginning words? Emes Veyatziv. Okay, Emes Veyatziv. Okay, so those are the three brachos of Kriat Shema, and we'll come back to exactly maybe their main themes, their thematic elements in a moment. But that's important that you understand there are three brachos at night. From the time of the Gemara, there are four brachos, two before Kriat Shema, two after Kriat Shema, and then there's a fifth one that was added later, Bisman HaGaonim, which is a whole other discussion. But the main thing, we'll really key in on the basic elements that have to pertain to the morning davening, to Birchot HaShachar, okay, the Kriat Shema of Shachars. Okay, so let's take a look at the Gemara. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yehuda, I should read? Okay. Unless somebody wants to be a volunteer.
Got Mentos.
All right, what? You want to read? Okay, I'll read. I don't want to force him. Amar Rav Yehuda, Safek Kara Kriat Shema, Safek Lo Kara, Eino Choser V'Koreh. Rav Yehuda said, if you have a Safek, whether you did Kriat Shema that morning, or you have a doubt, Eino Choser V'Koreh. You do not have to go back and read it again in order to take care of the Safek. The Safek is decided by not reading Kriat Shema. Okay? Next statement. Safek Omar Emes Veyatziv, Safek Lo Omar Choser Va'omer Emes Veyatziv. But if you have a Safek, whether or not you said Emes Veyatziv, or you didn't say Emes Veyatziv, the halacha is you have to go back and say Emes Veyatziv. My taima, what is the reason, the Gemara asks? Kriat Shema Derabanan, Emes Veyatziv Deoraisa. So a shocking reason is given. Shocking to all of us. We always think of Kriyat Shema as one of the cardinal mitzvahs that we accomplish. It's actually one of the, in many cases, many people think, because I know this from experiences with students, that it's one of the, sometimes the simplest mitzvahs to accomplish. You just have to say Shema, and you fulfill a mitzvah Deoraisa. Everyone knows that, right? Morning and night. But here the Gemara is of the opinion, Amar Rav Yehuda, it's Rav Yehuda's opinion, okay, and others, as we'll see, that what? That Kriat Shema really is Derabanan. And shockingly, Emes Veyatziv, the last bracha of Kriat Shema, with that you fulfill a mitzvah Deoraisa. Is everybody following me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, let's just go a few more lines. Now, by the way, I want you to know something. There are a lot of interesting problems. Tosfos raises some of the problems. I'm not going to be taking up all the problems in this sugya. There's a lot of interesting stuff here that needs to be raised and should be discussed, but I just want to really stick, to really focus and take us to, one or two very important points. And then I'll leave it to you guys who are sitting learning all day long to discover the rest. Okay? So let's just go further in the Gemara right now. So the Gemara says, Meisiv Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef asked, which is exactly the kasha that we would all ask. Uvishach b'cha uvkumecha. What are you telling me Kriat Shema is the Rabbanan? What do you mean? The Torah says, Uvishach b'cha uvkumecha, when you lie down and when you get up. Amar le Abaye. So Abaye defends Rav Yehuda's position. Amar le Abaye, hahu b'divrei Torah ksiv. No question. When it says Birchot uvkumecha, it's talking about divrei Torah, studying Torah. Okay? Can I have you have a sitter?
Here.
Thank you. Yeah, so just to clarify, so the pasuk, it goes like this: V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha, and you shall love Yud-Kei Vav-Kei Elokecha, your God, okay, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with everything that you have. V'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh. So it's interesting. The Sifri raises a question that the Rambam made very famous, which is, and only in Torah and Judaism could you have a question like this. The question is, it says, V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. So the question the Sifri asks, Keitzad ohev es hamakom. How do you love God? How does that manifest itself? How do you love God? It's one thing I can understand. You talk about loving, a spouse, loving a parent, loving a sibling. You can understand it. It's there's a certain attraction there. There's a certain common physical identification. There are familial identifications, all sorts of psychological factors are at play. How does one come to love God? So the Sifri gives the answer. It's the next pasuk in the parsha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al lavavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'am v'shitecha v'eisecha v'lechtecha v'derecha v'shachpacha v'komecha. The answer is Vayu hadvarim ha'ela, through Talmud Torah, through the study of Torah. That's how one accomplishes the mitzvah of Ahavas Hashem. I'm not going to go more into that, but I assume that's discussed in the yeshiva. But if not, there we go. So in any case, so it's Vayu Advarim. But my main point is to show you Vayu Advarim Ha'ela is talking about Talmud Torah. It's talking about the study of Torah. And that's really the rest of the parsha is going along on that vein. Because then it says, V'shinanta levanecha, you should teach them to your children. V'dibarta bam, you should talk about ikar diburam bam. That should be your essential conversation, and your involvement should be in the study of Torah. When? When? Through your normal flow of life. When you're sitting in your home, when you're walking along the road, when you go to sleep, when you wake up, just part of the natural flow of your life that you're involved in the study of Torah. And then, ukishar tom laos al yadecha. What should you put on your arm? What you put on your arm? Ukishar tom. What? Not? No. What? No. Torah. Thank you. Torah. Follow the parsha. Tefillin is the mitzvah, is the vehicle how you get Torah, parshios, Torah onto your arm. You understand what I'm saying? It's ukshar tom laos al yodecha v'hayu l'totafos b'neinecha. And then what else should you do with this Torah? Uchesav tom al mezuzos beisecha v'isharecha. And you should also write this Torah on the doors of your homes and of your gates, so that your world is completely surrounded. You're immersed in this world of Torah. Okay? All right. So that's what basically Abaye's answer is. You made a mistake. Umishach b'chav kumecha is not talking about the mitzvah of what? Of Kriat Shema. It's talking about Torah. Abaye opened up the parsha. He read the parsha. Plain shot in the parsha. He said it's divrei Torah. Okay? So, according to Abaye's defense of Rav Yehuda, okay, so it turns out what? Kriat Shema remains, Kriat Shema is Derabanan. Kriat Shema is Derabanan, and Shach B'chav Kumecha is talking about Torah. And what does Rav Yehuda hold? I mean? He says, Uv'shach B'chav Kumecha is talking about what? Kriat Shema. Okay? So that's a machlokes that I think we would like to understand a little bit better. Not only that, but I don't think anybody would doubt that they both observe the same thing in shuls every day, which is that what happened every day, it seems Jews were saying Kriat Shema in the shul, right? You would imagine that's what was happening. So what I want to do is I want to focus in to understand the machlokas, whether or not you say Uv'shach b'chav kumecha is referring to Kriat Shema as one of the Taryag mitzvahs, or is it referring to Divrei Torah, and therefore Kriat Shema is only Derabanan. I'd like to understand that a little better. So we're fortunate that Rabbeinu Yonah, it's actually Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah, they wrote an excellent parish on the Rif and Brachas. I just got to find it now. So Rabbeinu Yonah says like this. Nutzer is a daf. Okay. Oh boy.
Yeah, I think that one has, if you remember the old daf, it'll tell you where it's at.
Yeah?
It's supposed to tell you on top.
Oh, yeah, I see. I think I got it. Yeah, I got it now. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Safek Kara Kriat Shema, Safek Lo Kara, Eina Chozav V'Koreh. Okay, so Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel. Actually, I should have said Shmuel, not Rabbi Yehuda. So Shmuel said, Safek Kara Kriat Shema, Safek Lo Kara, Eina Chozav V'Koreh. You don't go back and read it again. So now Rabbeinu Yonah says as follows: the Svira Leila Shmuel, the Kriat Shema Derabanan, because Shmuel is of the opinion that Kriat Shema is the Rabbanan. V'afal pi shekasav b'Torah uv'shach b'cha uv'kumecha, and even though it says uv'shach b'cha uv'kumecha, right, when you lie down and when you wake up, Svira Leila Shmuel shelo amra Torah dafka Kriat Shema. Shmuel's of the opinion the Torah never meant specifically to read Kriat Shema. Ela sheyikra b'Torah b'chol makom sheyirtzeh. But rather, like I said before, it means that you could read Torah from wherever you want. Wherever you want. Any Torah is good. In other words, the parsha is telling you a certain minimum of Torah study, which is b'shach b'cha ufkumecha, ela sheyikra b'Torah b'chol makom sheyirtzeh. Umasha anu korin zos haparsha dafka, and that which we read, specifically this parsha. In other words, how did that happen? Why can't I read Vayikra in the morning? Why can't I read something from Bereshis in the morning or at night? How is it that every Jew, it says Kriat Shema night and day? Okay, ain't no element Derabanan. That's the Derabanan. Okay, so Rabbeinu Yonah has brought it a little bit more to life. He says as follows: that what? That really Kriat Shema, it goes like this. The Torah's obligation is to study Torah. B'shach b'cha uv'kamecha. What Torah? Anything you want. If you would ask Moshe Rabbeinu this question, he'll tell you any Torah, whatever you want. Just the key is to be involved in Torah. But the Chachamim came along midrabanan, and they said, you can't just do any Torah. The Torah we're going to obligate you in is going to be Kriat Shema, is specifically Kriat Shema. Okay? So what do you think the Chachamim did there? What was that move? Originally, yes, Moshe Rabbeinu, he would have been just as happy if you said Bereshis Bar Elokim, or if you read about Esav, or Hagar, or Korach, Vadaso, Zos HaBracha. It wouldn't make any difference to Moshe Rabbeinu what you do. But the Chachamim came along, and they instituted specifically to be Makayim, the mitzvah of Divrei Torah, B'shach b'cha uv'kumecha. They said it has to be specifically Kriat Shema. What do you think the Chachamim did there? What was their thinking? What do you think they were thinking?
Yetzias Mitzrayim?
Yetzias Mitzrayim? If you think that the third parsha is included, you have to make that assumption. I wouldn't jump to the third parsha so fast. But I wouldn't say you're wrong either. Yes?
I wanted to stress that God is one and Kabbalah Salma.
Okay, good. So now put that in the... So what did they do? They said what? What did they say?
They said, this is what you have to focus on at this time. Or this is the Torah that you have to be learning and stressing at this time, not any Torah.
Okay. Good. Not bad. I would put it a little bit differently, just a little bit differently. I would say like this, that what the Chacham said was that uv'shach b'cha uv'kumecha is a minimum, right? It's a minimum of Torah study. Obviously that's not the, I mean, you wouldn't have the yeshiva here if that was the, if that's the way Talmud Torah worked. So that's the minimum. So what the Chachamim said was that if a person is going to be in the minimum category, the minimum should be a Talmud Torah that's about Yesodei Hadas, about the fundamentals of the religion. And that's what you meant by Kabbalah Salmach Shemayim. Because Kabbalah Salmach Shemayim, I mean, what does that mean? Kabbalah Salmach Shemayim. Kabbalah Salmach Shemayim is a term that we all use since we're little kids. But what it really means is really the acceptance that of the reality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that He really is the perfect non-physical being and the source of the entire universe. That's what you mean when you say Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. Okay? And that's right, by the way, the word Ol, I mean, again, has bad connotations often, the way they translate it when we're younger. You always think of a yoke. You know, you're getting weighed down by something. But really the idea is that once a person has a proper concept of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so therefore that concept always steers him in a certain direction. And that's what a yoke does for an animal. It steers them in a certain manner that they're doing the right thing. Same thing here. If you don't have that basic idea of the correct concept of Yud Kei Vav Kei, of really the Borei Olam, so that's going to affect your whole lifestyle. If you have the correct one, you're going to walk in a certain derech. You see? So therefore, what the Chacham said was that they took the basic Deoraisa, which is Talmud Torah, but now they said you're going to be Makayim Talmud Torah in a specific manner. That is, like you said, through Kabbalah Salmach Shemayim, or as I put it, through the Yesodei Hadas, the basic ideas of Torah. So therefore, reading this specific text is just the Rabbanan. There is no mitzvah Deoraisa of Kriyat Shema. The mitzvah Deoraisa is Talmud Torah. It's Divrei Torah, Talmud Torah. But now you're Makayim it through a specific Torah, namely the Torah of Yesodei Hadas. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, so the implication then is that it just happens to be a coincidence that the very thing itself that tells you the minimal shiur happens to contain all the Ikari das. Because in the same paragraph that says B'shachal Chumecha, it happens to contain those very things that would be necessary for Chazal to create that minimal shiur. Is that what you're implying? In other words, it could have been, let's say a paragraph somewhere else in Torah said B'shachal Chumecha, and they said, okay, the minimum shiur is Kriat Shema, but Kriat Shema never contained B'shachal Chumecha. It would still be the same idea. But it just happens to be in this case, in the very paragraph itself that creates a minimal shiur, happens to also contain all the Ikari das.
Well, it's going to make sense because if you're expressing the idea of Talmud Torah,
So that's the starting point.
yes.
Because you're saying so it's not a coincidence. In other words,
No, it's not a coincidence.
Okay.
No, not at all. No. Okay. All right. Before we get to the other side, a couple more questions. Go ahead. Yeah.
So that's saying that Midoraisa, so the thing is set up that in the middle of tefillah you start learning?
That's a great question. It's a very good question. But the truth of the matter is, there's almost the first Rashi in all of Shas. So there's a famous thing that when is the time of Kriat Shema B'Layla? So the first Mishna says that the time of Kriat Shema B'Layla is Tzeisa Kachavim, the time that the Kohanim go to eat their Truma, which is Tzeisa Kachavim. Right? So Rashi raises a question that's people don't realize. It's a very old question, even before Rashi's time. He asked the question, he says, if Zman Kriat Shema really starts at Tzeis Kachavim, he says, how is it, why are we reading Kriat Shema in our Beis HaKnesses? I'll read Rashi's words. He says, Im Kain, Lama Koran also Beis HaKnesses. Because when did they daven? They davened earlier. Especially in those days. Today we do it more out of certain conveniences. You make early Shabbos, all these kind of things. But in those days, it was very difficult to get a minyan after dark because it was a scary place to be in the dark. So they all davened early, and they used to get together for mincha and then do marav right afterwards. Probably a plug in between, maybe. All right, that's another story. But anyhow, so Rashi says, "Im kain lama korna beis hakneses." So Rashi answers based on Yerushalmi. Kidei lamod b'tfila mitoch divrei Torah. They should stand up to tefillah from where? From the world of Talmud Torah. That is, and if you study the fifth parak of Brachas, Ein Omdin, you'll see that is exactly the proper way to be Omeid Lifnei Hashem is from Talmud Torah. Why? Because Talmud Torah is going to give the person certain correct ideas, and it's going to have a certain effect on him as a person, and as a result, he's the right type of gavra, the right type of person to be Omeid Lifnei Hashem. That's exactly the kind of person who should stand before God. You have to be prepared. You have to be ready to stand before God. and Talmud Torah is the method. It's specific kinds of Talmud Torah. I mean, that's a whole.
So that's why Torah before Shemona Esrei.
Exactly. That's right. That's why. By the way, that's why you have Ashrei before Mincha. They don't have Shema there. They have Ashrei. A whole other question, but yeah, it's the same kind of concept. Yes.
And how come, this might just be a misunderstanding of the functions of the brachos thing, but how come then we have that there, but we have Birchot Torah in the beginning? If they both accomplish the goal of we do learn a little bit after Birchot Torah, we have the Yikavod, no? Isn't that to fulfill, then because we see a bracha on learning Torah, and then after that they have some lines of Torah and they're just, that bracha's not in it, is that not?
Right, but that's a separate chiyuv of Birchot Torah.
I hear, but how come they're separate? Why are there two? Yeah, you just said that before standing before Hashem, we learn from Torah, be prepared. How come there's two different times?
Give me a minute. I'll come back because when I talk about what Ahava Rabbah is, we'll come back to that point. Okay? I don't know if I'll exhaust the issue, but I'll try to say something about it. Okay?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. So obviously, what does the other side hold? So the other side holds not that way. They learn. It'll make Rabbi Ginsburg even happier. Okay. They learn that when the Torah says "V'hayu hadavarim ha'ela," okay, u'v'shach b'chov kumecha, that is a separate suras ha-mitzvah that you're obligated to be involved in Yesodei Hadas, in Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. And in fact, that's exactly, it flows with the rest of the parsha. Like for instance, U'chasafta maluzos peisecho visharecha. So there's a Tosas in Menachos that points out that he learns that only, you guys know what sirtut is? Okay, so you have sirtut, the lines, right? So Tosas are the opinion that there's a halacha l'Moshe Messinai to have sirtut, but only by mezuzah. Mezuzah is the only thing that needs sirtut. Okay? Not tefillin, not sefer Torah. Well, what does that mean? So Tosas says an unbelievable thing there. He says, why? He says, sirtut is an idea in that which is amita shel Torah, the ol malchus shemayim. You see? So it's a separate entity of ol malchus shemayim. That's Kriat Shema. And since that's what a mezuzah is, it's limited to ol malchus shemayim. Tosas learns that gets the underlines. That's to show that this is a unique entity of Torah. Not all Torah is exactly the same. It's all Torah, don't get me wrong. But there is an idea, a separate identity, a separate chal Hashem of Torah, of Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. And that, the other Manda Amrim, okay, in other words, the way we paskin actually, we hold Kriat Shema is Deoraisa. So we're of the opinion that Uvishach B'chov Kumecha is not a chiyuv of Talmud Torah. That's a separate obligation of Talmud Torah. This is a specific obligation to be involved specifically in Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim, in a special form of Talmud Torah. But it has its own identity. It's mitzvahs Kriat Shema. It's a separate chal Hashem. It has its own essence, its own identity. And that's the machlokas. So everyone saw everybody saying Shema and Shul. The question is how to characterize what they were doing in Shul. Yeah, Shmuel, he'll tell you, they're all involved in Talmud Torah. They're studying Torah now. Which Talmud Torah? The Kriat Shema Talmud Torah. But it's Talmud Torah. The mitzvah is Talmud Torah. Specifically, Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim, but Talmud Torah. You go ahead and ask, we didn't quote the other Mandamar, but it's later in the Gemara, Rebbe Lazar. Okay, Rebbe Lazar holds no. They're not, it's not the mitzvah of Talmud Torah they're engaged in. It has a separate identity of mitzvahs Kriat Shema, of a separate chafza of Kabbalah, separate activity, a maisa of Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. So that is the machlokes on whether or not Kriat Shema is Deoraisa or Derabanan. Okay? Yes?
So according to Shmuel, why does he even say Kriat Shema? Yeah.
What's that?
Why does he even say Kriat Shema? According to Shmuel, if he holds this like...
There's a chiyuv Derabanan to fulfill the mitzvah of Talmud Torah through Kriat Shema.
But why in between, why there, why before Veyatziv? Why not? after Shacharis, or
He holds that that's the proper structure, the proper introduction before the Amida, before you get to Shemon Esrei.
No one disagrees.
Okay.
Everyone agrees on that point.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Deraisa, Derabanan.
Yeah, but the answer is right. Correct. Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
Does he hold it's only does the other Migdal and Shmuel hold that it's only because of Kabbalah's Omar Shemaim, or also the idea of the oneness of Hashem?
Which side are you asking?
The one, the not the
Deraisa.
versus contra.
It's Deoraisa, the way we
I'm
hold.
saying the mitzvah is Kabbalah Sol, or the mitzvah is also After Hashem.
Same thing.
That's the same.
Kabbalah Sal Shemayim and Achdus Hashem is one and the same thing.
To me.
It's not about a number game. It's about accepting the reality of God. That's Kabbalah Sal Malchus Shemayim. Not only accept the reality, that is the reality. The only real reality. Okay? Okay.
Sorry, one here. But even if you hold Deraisa, they both agree to the same objective of Kriat Shema in its position prior to Omer Hashem.
Yes, but if you would have asked Shmuel, he could have told you. He could imagine. I mean, before the Takanas Chacham, he could imagine you could have been learning anything you want.
Right, but according to Lazar, he's not denying the fact that it's Limud Torah as well.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, there's some reality to that as well. 'Cause
Right.
He could have said it could have been, Chazal could have composed together a list of Ikari Das, but he's saying no, this is B'davka, this Limud.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now let's go further in the Gemara. Okay. And this is really my main point. So pay attention now. I need you guys are good. You guys are good. So be critical on this next part. This is what I really want to hear. All right. So now the Gemara quotes the Mishnah. Okay? All right, let me just give you a quick little backdrop, okay? There at one time was a takana, perhaps two takanos, that's a whole question unto itself, that if a person is a Baal Keri, okay, that if he had any kind of seminal emission, okay, that the halacha was that he had to go to the mikvah before he was involved in Torah and before he was involved in tefillah. Okay, this takana did not make it. Okay, the tzibur wasn't able to be able to follow it, to observe it properly, and that's halacha that at the chum, if they make a takana and the tzibur is not capable of observing it from its initial start, that it's not a takana. Interesting is, and I'm not going to get into this, it's a whole big sugya, even though it didn't end up as a takana, it did end up as a minhag in all, as the Rambam portrays it, in all the countries where the Yishmaelim dominate. That in all the Muslim lands, it was a minhag that they would go to the mikveh if they were Baal Keri before they would daven. And in the lands of the Arelim, which the Rambam's term for Christians, that there was no minhag. And interesting, the Rambam writes in the Tshuva that no one's allowed to change from their minhag. And he says he obviously lived in the lands of the Ishmaelim. The Rambam himself, he actually says he never ever davened without going to the mikveh first, unless he was a cholad. And if you take a look at the Mishnah Torah, that's how he does paskin for those people who live, I think, in Sfarad and Shinar. If you take a look, I don't remember the exact words in the Mishnah Torah, but I believe it's something along those lines. So it survived as a minute. I'm not sure about today. Is anything?
Today,
Whatever. Okay. Don't know. So in any case, but the Mishnah has it as if it's the takana is alive and well. Okay. All right. So everyone's got that clear. What the case of the Baal Keri is. Okay. So listen to what now quotes the Mishnah. So the Mishnah says like this: Tanan, Baal Keri Maharer Belibo. A Baal Keri, when he's reading Kriat Shema, he's Maharer. Maharer means, Belibo means, he says it mentally. He doesn't verbalize it. Okay, there's no verbalization of the Kriyat Shema. But he goes through the Kriyat Shema in his mind. All right? Ve'eno mevorech lo lefaneha v'lo la'achareha. But he doesn't say the brachos before or after, even as hero, even mentally. In other words, he doesn't say them or think them at all. Has everybody got that?
Yeah.
So Kriyat Shema he mentally says, and the brachos forget about. Doesn't have anything to do with them. All right? The al hamazon mivorech la'acharav. He's maharher for mazon birchas hamazon. That he does mentally. The eino mivorech lefanav, but he doesn't make brachos even mentally before he eats. Okay, so what's the? Can someone tell me what is the basic logic, the rationale of what that halachos are in the Mishnah? One more time. He says Kriat Shema mentally, Birchas Hamazon mentally, all brachos not at all.
So it should be Deoraisa, he probably does mentally.
So exactly. So anything that's Deoraisa, the Chachamim said you'll do mentally. Even though we made a takana that is a Baal Keri, you have no right to be involved in Torah and Tefillah. But if it's a Deoraisa idea, Deoraisa mitzvah, it's a Deoraisa performance, that you do as shiur. Anything else that's Derabanan, not at all. Okay? So now the Gemara says, V'hi sal kadaitach, and if you're going to think, emes v'yatziv Deoraisa, livrach lachareh. So if you're telling me emes v'yatziv is Deoraisa, okay, so then this doesn't make any sense, this Mishnah. It should have been Kriyat Shema you don't have anything to do with. Kriyat Shema is Derabanan. Forget Kriyat Shema.
Even if he was Deoraisa.
What?
Saying, even according to all opinions at this point, I thought MS Veyatziv should be Deoraisa. We haven't seen anything that's not Deoraisa. That's the real...
No. What do you mean?
Everyone holds right now MS Veyatziv. But before this kasha, even Shmuel and everyone held that MS Veyatziv was Deoraisa, right?
That's all they hold is Deoraisa,
Right.
not Kriyat Shema.
So the question is on both of them.
Who's both of them?
All the opinions.
Why?
Well,
We don't know what Rebbe Loza holds. Forget what Rebbe Loza. Let's just focus on Shmuel.
who holds it as Derabanan?
Shmuel holds Kriat Shema as Derabanan, Emes
Right.
Veyatziv is Deoraisa.
Oh, so
Now,
it's-
how's he going to
Right.
learn this Mishnah?
It's only mixed up, right?
Okay?
Yeah.
Keep it so, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, so everyone get the question? One more time. V'yisal k'dayich emes v'yatziv Deoraisa livruch lacharela. It should have been the opposite. The Mishnah should have said the opposite. The Mishnah should have said that forget about Shema. Shema is Derabanan. Forget about it. And what? And instead, what should you be doing? Emes v'yatziv. Okay? So how does the Gemara explain how Shmuel would ever read this Mishnah? All right, got to stay with me here, okay? My taima mivarech. Okay, so now now the Gemara probes into what is the whole reason that emes v'yatziv is really Deoraisa altogether. What is about this emes v'yatziv that makes it Deoraisa, according to Shmuel? So the Gemara says, my time of Mavarech, what's the whole reason you're Mavarech? Mishum Yitzias Mitzrayim. If you're going to tell me because it mentions Yitzias Mitzrayim, Mi Mitzrayim Galtano, right? Right? All that stuff, right? You with me? Right? Ha'idikilei b'Kriyat Shema. So Gemara says, 1 second. What do you mean? Is it because of Yitzias Mitzrayim and Emes V'Yatziv? But didn't you mention Yitzias Mitzrayim already where? At the end of Kriyat Shema. Ani Hashem Elokechem, Asher Hotzei Eschem Eretz Yisrael, Lios Lachem Le'Elokim. Ani Hashem Elokechem, right? So you've already mentioned it. So how is Emes V'Yatziv Deoraisa, right? Ha'idikale b'Kriyat Shema. So the Gemara says, V'neima ha v'lo lebaya ha. So the Gemara says, 1 second. Let's tell the Baal Keri, we'll get out of the whole problem. Let's tell the Baal Keri not to say what? Not to be Maharer what? Kriyat Shema, and let him just say Emes V'Yatziv. Okay? And then, right? So the Gemara says, no. Kriat Shema adifa. Kriat Shema is better. The isba tarti. It has both. In other words, Kriat Shema, what does Rashi say? The isba tarti, Yitzias Mitzrayim, Malchus Shemayim. You get both when you say Kriat Shema. You get Malchus Shemayim, and you get Yitzias Mitzrayim. So therefore, if you're a Baal Keri, and you're going to say one of them, so the Chacham said, you know what? Say Kriat Shema. Why? Because you're going to get two things from Kriat Shema. You're going to get the Derabanan of Malchus Shemayim, and you're also going to get the Deoraisa of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, because you can say, Ani Hashem Elkeichem, Asher Tzei Yitziaschem Eretz Mitzrayim. So that's why the Chachamim said it that way. Okay, so it's no kasha, even though what? Let's go over again. Now, it's even according to Shmuel, who holds what? That normally he would say what? For an average person, Kriat Shema is Derabanan, and Emes Veyatziv is Deoraisa. But now, in this special circumstance where the person is a Baal Keri, so what do? Just say Kriat Shema. Why? Because this way he will still get Malchus Shemayim, Derabanan, and it's very important, because even though it's a Derabanan, but I don't have to tell you, to be involved in Malchus Shemayim is Yisori Adas, so let him do that. And guess what? Memela will also get the Deoraisa anyhow, Yitzias Mitzrayim, because he's going to say the last pasuk of Ani Hashem Elkeichem, Asher Tzei Yitziaschem Eretz Mitzrayim. He'll be Makayim the mitzvah of Laman Tizkor, it's Yom Tzeischa Me'eretz Mitzrayim. Okay? Alright? Does everyone kind of follow that?
Yeah.
Okay? In other words, what the Gemara has revealed, let me make, it might be a simple point, but let me just say it anyhow, that according to Shmuel, the key thing of Emes Veyatziv, the reason why it was Deoraisa, is really because of Yitzias Mitzrayim. And why is Yitzias Mitzrayim Deoraisa? You all know it from the Haggadah. Laman Tizkor, Yom Tzeischa, Eretz Mitzrayim, Kol Yemei Chayacha. There's a mitzvah to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim each and every day. Besides the mitzvah of Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim on Leil Tezvav in Nisan. There's a separate thing. Laman Tizkor, Yom Tzeischa, Eretz Mitzrayim, Kol Yemei Chayacha. So therefore, that's really the importance of Emes Veyatziv. Okay? And that's why that's Deoraisa. It's a separate kiyum of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim every single day. But when you're a Baal Keri, and now you have this restriction on a Baal Keri, so now the Chachamim said, how do we limit him? So we have a Deoraisa we have to deal with here. So what we do is, let him say Kriat Shema, and when he says Kriat Shema, he'll fulfill anyhow the Deoraisa that Shmuel is so concerned about, and therefore that's why we let him be Mahar in that, and we drop Emes Veyatziv. Okay? I see hands, which is a good sign. Okay, go ahead.
So that means Shema is also Deoraisa, even according to Shmuel.
Because of?
Mitzrayim.
Because of Yitzias
It's part
Mitzrayim.
of it.
It's still Deoraisa.
What?
Still Deoraisa.
It's still Deoraisa.
So why don't we say Shema?
What's that?
I'm saying so.
Why ever say Veyatziv? Emes
So,
Veyatziv.
and, yeah.
Go ahead, you can ask this every which. Go ahead.
So you're already Kim. You're already Yotzi. You're Deraisa by Shema, so you don't have a Deraisa anymore by Emes Veyatziv. And also, why don't you think Emes Veyatziv? If the Deraisa, you get another Deraisa by Emes Veyatziv, why don't you think Emes Veyatziv also? Meaning, even a Baal Keri should think Shema and Emes Veyatziv because they're both Deraisas.
Very good. Any other questions? That's pretty right. In other words, the problem when you read this Gemara, there's a number of problems, but let's just focus in on what you guys were asking. This Gemara is very, very difficult to understand because at the end of the day, you just told me that Shmuel holds that Kriat Shema is Derabanan. And then you tell me Emes Veyatziv is Deoraisa. And that's why when it's a Safek Kara Kriat Shema, you don't read Kriat Shema again. But Safek Emes Veyatziv, you would read again because of the idea of Yitzias Mitzrayim. And then you tell me, but when you're in a situation of a Baal Keri, let him say the Shema alone, without Emes Veyatziv. And he'll be Makayim, the Deoraisa of Yitzias Mitzrayim. But you told me a second ago, first of all, Kriat Shema is Derabanan. Now you tell me there really is a Deoraisa element. Moreover, Even a worse problem. If you really fulfill the Deoraisa by saying Kriat Shema, by saying that last parsha, how is Emes Veyatziv ever Deoraisa? Does anybody know how to get to Emes Veyatziv without first stopping through Kriat Shema? You're always going to say Ani Hashem Elokeichem first. So when is Emes Veyatziv, the bracha of Gal Yisrael, ever going to be in a Deoraisa role? So the whole thing is very difficult to understand. That's the problem I wanted to raise from this Gemara. Okay, try to solve that problem. Does everyone have a problem?
Isn't the I don't know. This might totally be wrong.
Just before you give me an answer already.
I was gonna no, yeah.
Hold on one second. I really want to make sure everyone really has it. Should I say it again? It's for free. What? You're good?
Yeah, I have another question.
Another question, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's more just what does that word mean? Mahar level the enum of our Bilafanav Lochara.
Mahar Beliba
What is
means.
that talking about? What does that mean?
It's talking about it's talking about two things. It's talking about Kriat Shema or Birchot Hamazon.
Okay.
Like your Mahar Beliba means you think it in your heart, meaning internally, mentally, but you don't in any way say it, enunciate it, verbalize it.
Lefanav Lo Lochara. What does that mean?
Those you do not say by Kriat Shema, since the brachos before and after are, you would think, Derabanan, so you don't say them, you don't even think them. You drop them because you're a Baal Keri.
Lo Lefanav Lo Lochara.
Lo lefaneha, the brachos before Kriat Shema, lo lachareha, the blessing, the brachos that come after Kriat Shema.
The one comes after is Emes Veyatziv, right?
Yes,
So it's saying be quiet about Emes Veyatziv.
that's right. And that's a question against Shmuel. What does he do with that Mishnah? Shmuel has to be able to explain that Mishnah, and yet Shmuel's the one who said Emes Veyatziv is Deoraisa, right?
Isn't it a bigger problem when you're talking about? Because forget about this whole thing with the Shema. He's now saying treat Emes Veyatziv like a Derabanan. He's not just saying Shema is really Deoraisa now. He's saying treat Emes Veyatziv like a Derabanan. Don't say it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly correct. Yes.
Do we say by Baal Keri, he should go to the mikveh before he davens and learns?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's one takana, two takana, it's a whole other issue. Because there is an opinion that one was only the Talmud Torah one, but the one for tefillah is intact. Not our sugya. Okay. Yeah.
Alright, so just
Oh, I show you. Actually, you have to also go.
No, it's okay.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
wait that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, just to clarify.
Jersey guy.
David,
What?
I'm not my brother, but so don't expect much of my questions. But is the Deoraisa, is the Emes Veyatziv, your question is why is it considered Deoraisa? Because we said before that it was Deoraisa, because you should repeat it, and yet he doesn't say it? Here's your question.
How did you put that again?
So I just so you said before that Emes Veyatziv was Deoraisa, and now we're saying that it seems to be implying that a Baal Keri only says he only thinks Deoraisa.
Right.
However-
Shmuel said before that Emes Veyatziv is Deoraisa.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's Deraisa is because of the idea of Yitzias Mitzrayim, Leman Tizkor,
Yeah.
right? So, but then he says that a Baal Keri
Only says.
only says Shema because he'll get both anyhow.
Okay, fine. So he's.
So now once he says that, then first of all, how is Emes Veyatziv ever going to be a Deraisa then?
So that's my question. So is he implying also that Shema would be Deoraisa here? That's what we're referring?
Insofar as it's Leman Tizkor.
Okay, fine. But why are we?
You don't have to say it changed his other point that it's.
Okay, fine. But why are we specifically asking if Emes Veyatziv is Deoraisa or not? Would it not be a question to say why we say it at all if we already fulfill the obligation of Veyatziv, Mitzrayim, and Shema?
Yes, that was a
That was
question.
the question?
That was another question. Yes.
Another question. All right.
Correct.
So that's fine.
Yes.
What's the main question we're asking now? Like,
It's two sides, the same question. I mean, it's all the same. What we're trying to understand that according to Shmuel, how is Emes Veyatziv ever a Deoraisa? Okay, since you see now, even according to Shmuel, he could be Yotzei Zakiras Yitzias Mitzrayim through Kriat Shema.
through Christmas, Deraisa.
Yes. Because Rashi says about that's how he explains the Mishnah.
Yeah.
That's why the Chacham chose Kriat Shema and knocked out Emes Veyatziv. So what's going on here? Maybe we should say Kriat Shema again. Not because of It's a separate mitzvah of Omal Shemayim, but it's a separate Tzitzias Mitzrayim. What about that, Deoraisa? Yeah.
I think you like said it earlier that because there's a separate mitzvah to have a specific thing just for Zeichat Tzitzias Mitzrayim. That can't be like a double. You can't get 2 for 1. You can only have.
But you can.
A single. But
Baal Keri does.
according to
Baal Keri does. Gets the double. The daily double.
Is Emes Veyatziv a continuation
Is it a continuation?
of Vayomer? It doesn't go straight through.
I would say yes.
So it could be that it's one Deraisa that's going all the way through.
There is a Rishon that learns that way, but most Rishonim don't. There is a day like
it
Antosis.
wouldn't really answer the question about why you repeat part of it anyway. Because if it's one Deraisa, you need to say all Deraisa. So
Right.
let's think that.
Yeah, if you really want to get more involved in that aspect of the sugi, that's the Tosis of Safek Lo Amar. That's a very interesting. That's a workout.
Okay.
Good for an all-night shvuas. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I think the question we're facing here seems to be a question anyways, because his whole opinion was that Kriat Shema, at the very least, was learning, but learning is anyways Deraisa. So you always run into a Deraisa, so clearly it's not the fact you're running into a Deraisa of some sort that's going to be a problem for us. It has to be what the Iker of Kriat Shema is, and you could definitely say that they didn't establish Kriat Shema for the Yitzhak at the end. You could say they definitely established Kriat Shema just for the All Malchus Shemaim. The fact that there is a Deraisa of Yitzhak which attaches at the end shouldn't really hurt his position at all, because he anyways has a problem if there's a Deraisa of learning.
Yeah, but then I'll still ask you. So what do you mean that Emes Veyatziv is Deoraisa?
Because that's why Emes Veyatziv is there. It's there for Yitzhak Mitzrayim. It was
I
established for Yitzhak Mitzrayim.
understand, but you were Yotze already when you said Ani Hashem Elokecha.
But
Were you Yotze? Were you
That's the
Yotze?
main thing that you're putting in. Which
I understand, but were you Yotze?
you Yotze establishing the field.
Did you know were you Yotze Laman Tizkos Yom Tzeischah?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But who says you're also Yotze when you say Emes Veyatziv?
But when are you gonna ever say Emes Veyatziv before you
You
say?
wouldn't, but you got to derive for Emes Veyatziv also.
What does that mean?
What do you mean? Every time you mention Yitzhak Mitzrayim, you get Deraisa.
No. Emes Veyatziv Deoraisa means you're Mekayim your mitzvah, you're chiyuv.
Well, but then on the other hand, so the Shema anyways, he's learning. So of course
But
it's
you
Deraisa.
never have to repeat it. Just because it's Deraisa of learning, even if you want to say that, you wouldn't go back and repeat it, because it's not something you need to do. Learning is always the Deraisa, but if you don't do it, you would never go back. It's not the same thing as Yitzhak Mitzrayim.
But now if they establish that time to learn, you need to learn at that time, then you would go back. If they're saying it's Deraisa,
They're saying
to
that
learn
that
at
aspect
time.
of the fact you need to learn at that time is Derabanan.
No. They said the fact you have to learn at time is Deraisa. The fact you have to learn Kriat Shema at the time is Derabanan. The fact you have to learn at time is Deraisa, so you should go back anyways.
It's a good question. I'm gonna answer this question first. I'm not sure if I'm gonna answer the question. I have to think about it. It's a good question. Okay. So what I want to say is like this, that getting back to the brachos now. Just basics, really basic sitter here. You see, the Birchos Kriat Shema, are a very unique kind of brachos. Okay? There's actually a halacha that reflects that. A very well-known halacha, which is normally when you have safek brachos. So what's the halacha when you have safek brachos? You always say safek brachos lahakel. Safek brachos lahakel. But it's interesting, where's that Rambam? Yeah. Safek kara Kriat Shema, safek lo kara, chozer v'koreh. Yeah, because Rambam holds Deraisa. Umevarech lefaneo lachareha. Okay? So it's interesting. You have a safek whether you read Kriat Shema, and you have a safek whether you read the brachos. What's the halacha? So you would think if you applied the normal rule, which many thought maybe you should, you would think, what should you do? Go back and say Kriat Shema, but don't say the brachos, because the brachos you might have said already. You guys following?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But the Ram doesn't pass it. He says, Safek kara Kriat Shema, Safek lo kara, chozer v'koreh, mevarech lefaneo lacharel. You make the Birchos Kriat Shema. As opposed to where the Rambam says in other places that if a guy has a suffix, whether he was nota lulav or not, or something like that, he just picks up the lulav, he doesn't make the bracha. So you see that the brachos of Kriat Shema are something different than normal brachos. Okay? So the truth of the matter is, when you look at the Birchos Kriat Shema, what you really see is that the Birchos Kriat Shema are really an extension. Each bracha is an extension of the basic themes of Kriat Shema. And you have the idea of Yotzer Or V'Arechoshech, Yotzer Hama'oros. That's the idea of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as the Borei Olam, as the creator of the universe. Okay, that's all part of the idea of Hashem Echad. Okay, and also fits in the Rambam's, according to the Rambam, into the whole idea of Avas Hashem, which is not only through the study of Talmud Torah, but through an appreciation of the beauty and the chachma that's contained in the universe. Okay? Then the second bracha really encompasses what's Ahava Rabbah. Ahava Rabbah really is the whole idea of Talmud Torah, the centrality of Talmud Torah. See, like the Ram says here in Perek Aleph Halacha Beis in Kriat Shema, he wants to tell you why is the order of Kriat Shema the way it is. So he says, "Umakdim and likros parsha Shema, mipnei sheyesh ba yichar Hashem v'ahavaso v'talmudo shehu ha'ikar hagadol shakol tolibo." You see, Talmud Torah, the study of God's Torah, that is the great essence that everything else is dependent on. A person having Talmud Torah and knowledge. You see, that is, and that's really Ahava Rabbah. Okay? And Ahava Rabbah really also contains one other theme, which is really continued also in Emes Veyatziv, for a reason why it's in both. But what else do you have in Ahava Rabbah? You also have the fact that there's Hashkachas Hashem, that there's a whole system of Hashkacha between God and people who are involved in Torah and Mitzvot, which is really the whole bracha of Vayam Shemoah. Vayam Shemoah is all about the fact that there's a relationship between man's behavior, man's thoughts, and his ideas, and how his relationship is with HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And that is continued in Emes Veyatziv. But Emes Veyatziv also, besides talking about the Hashkacha, then also slips into a specific moment of the Hashkacha, which is the idea of Yetzias Mitzrayim. That's the bracha of Barachat Hashem Gal Yisrael. Okay? And you see, it's a very important idea because then you have Smichos Gula Tefillah. You can't have any kind of hesek between that preparation and those ideas and standing up to the Amidah. Okay? So the Birchos Kriat Shema are not like Birchos HaMitzvah. They are really an extension of the whole Maisa HaMitzvah of Kriat Shema. And that's why they don't partake of the usual rule of Safek Brachos Lahakel. You see, because the minute you're chayiv in Kriat Shema, that means you're chayiv in the Maisa HaMitzvah of Kriya in its Bishleimusa, in its proper way. So that chiyuv now demands that you do Kriat Shema in its full expression, in its full tzuras ha-mitzvah. And that's why it doesn't apply the usual din of Safek Brachos Lahakel. But why am I mentioning this to you here? I'll tell you why. Because I think that's an opening to the answer to Shmuel. What Shmuel holds is like this. Shmuel holds there's a mitzvah of Laman Tizkor Es Yom Tzeis Chomer Etz Mitzrayim Kol Yomei Chayecha. How are you essentially makayim that mitzvah? The answer is Emes Veyatziv. Why? Because, you see, Shmuel's of the opinion that Laman Tizkor is not just a mere zechira that God took us out of Mitzrayim. See, if it was a mere zechira, then you would fulfill that mitzvah and be done with it the minute you say, Ani Hashem Elokechem Asher Atzeis Yoschem Be'eretz Mitzrayim. You'd be done. But that's not what he holds. He holds Laman Tizkor in its full expression, its real kiyum b'shleimusa, is that you have to actually engage in reviewing what happened there. It has to be not just a mere remembrance. You have to actually be involved in Zechiras Mitzrayim. Mi Mitzrayim Galtanu. Basically, Kol B'Chemer Rakta V'Chorcha Galta V'Yamsu Bakata V'Zedin Tibata V'Yidem Avarta V'Yachasam V'Yitzrayim V'Echem Elonos Al Zo Shibachu. It's a whole. You really go through the events of what occurred, how God redeemed us from Mitzrayim. So therefore, you only will be makayim that kind of involvement, hisaskus, in Kriya, in Zechirus Yitzias Mitzrayim, only in Emes V'Yatziv. So you're right. Emes V'Ya, at Emes V'Ya, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, you are involved in the beginning of Zechirus Yitzias Mitzrayim. But the Kiyum B'Shlei Musa will be far off if you don't include Emes V'Yatziv. That's what he means. Emes V'Yatziv, Deoraisa. Because that's where you really get the real Kiyum B'Shlei Musa, the real idea of Zechirus Mitzrayim in its full-blown expression. But when they had the takana of Baal Keri, so Baal Keri, and I'm again, it's another question how to formulate Baal Keri. I'm not even trying to do that, but I know one thing. The Baal Keri was to limit the hisaskus in Talmud Torah and Tefillah. So there Shmuel holds that the Chachamim said that when there's a Baal Keri, so therefore they limited it to the most basic expression of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Just the basics. Nothing more. They did not let him get involved in a whole hisaskus of Yetzias Mitzrayim. They canceled that. What's that?
Even though that's another, you would say it's another Derabanan.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. It could be because I don't know. I was wondering that myself. Is it because maybe Laman Tizkor is not a separate Taryag? I'm not sure. It's a very good question. I was also bothered by that. Yeah, why? How do you make that distinction? But I do know one thing. That since I just want to explain. As the logic of it is that since there is a Kiyum Deoraisa, okay, albeit a very basic one, simply saying Ani Hashem Elokeichem Asher Atzeis Yischem Eretz Yisraelim, so that alone you will fulfill the basic Laman Tizkor, but you will be lacking in the real Kiyum B'Shlei Musa of real Zechirus Yisraelim. So that's what he means. Emes V'Yatziv Deoraisa means that's the full. If you want to know the real Suras HaMitzvah B'Shlei Musa of Yetzias Mitzrayim, you really have to engage in Emes V'Yatziv. Really, it's an Emes V'Yatziv. Ani Hashem Elokeichem might begin it. It might be a basic, but that's not the real Ikar Halacha according to him. So therefore, you don't have a contradiction anymore, right?
Also fit nicely. Why you would not need to repeat that, and you wouldn't need to repeat it on Scott. I'm saying going back to that point.
Yes. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's right.
Because you're not getting the full thing, and by doing Veyatziv and Venachon, you're getting everything there.
That's correct. Yes.
So, but he would hold that unless you before Emes V'Yatziv. So would you say the reason why you don't repeat Kriat Shema is because you're anyways getting the full fulfillment in Emes V'Yatziv? Because if you're still going to say the Shema is Deraisa, then I don't see how he avoids the fact that you should go back and repeat it.
And there was according to Shmuel for a regular person. Never mind what the circumstances are. That's the whole Tosas and the Rabbeinu Yonah about what the circumstances are. But according to Shmuel, in a normal circumstances, you're not going to go back for Kriyat Shema. Okay? Let's assume you have a suffix of above. Let's just make it simple. Okay? You don't know. You can't remember. Did you do Shachos this morning? Okay? So now, according to Shmuel, you're going to only have to go back to Emes V'Yatziv, since there you're going to fulfill the mitzvah of Zechirus Mitzrayim Deoraisa in its full expression. So that's what the suffix will demand, that you go back to that Deoraisa.
Because you're covering what you would have done in Shema.
And then some.
And more right. I'm saying, but theoretically, according to him, if there was no Emes V'Yatziv, Shema would be enough to go back on. He holds it's Deoraisa enough to go back on, but since you have Emes V'Yatziv, you don't go all the way back to Shema because Emes V'Yatziv does more than Shema.
That's correct.
But by Baal Keri, you don't.
Yeah, but when you say more, I just want to put it like more of a qualitative. In other words, that's the real Suras HaMitzvah is Emes V'Yatziv. You know what I mean?
Right.
The fact that Tzitzis, the Parashas Tzitzis does mention Zechirus Mitzrayim, it's true. You will have a basic kiyum of Zechira, but it will not be an appropriate Zechira. It'll be lacking. It'll be lacking in its in the Zechira.
And he holds the Kabbalah Sol part as Derabanan, so you're going to have to go back to that anyways.
That's right. And you'll probably also, according to him, I mean, just playing it out practically, when you go through Emes Veyatziv, I mean, it could be, maybe he would also fulfill his Deoraisa of being involved in Talmud Torah.
Just the more than mention that.
That'll be a separate question. I mean, I don't know if Shmuel holds that it has to be B'dafka
No,
Torah Shmichsav, or I don't know. It's another question. I don't know. I have no idea. But that's why they're not caught. But the Baal Keri, once they limited the Baal Keri, so yeah, then the Chacham said
So
that
to fulfill two basic things, even one is a Derabanan, then two with the full fulfillment of the Deraisa.
Yeah.
yeah, because the answer is it's not just any Derabanan. It's such a basic such a basic thing to the existence of a human being to review that idea, to be involved in Kabbalah Salmach Shemayim. So therefore they opted it that way. Yeah, that's what he would hold. Yeah.
Just to clarify that point, so
Go ahead.
we're saying, is the main focus of that bracha to say to be involved in Torah all day or learning Torah, like which is slightly different. Like, I think.
What are you asking me now?
What's the main focus of the bracha? The Omok Shemayim or Talmud Torah? Are they both the same?
Which bracha?
Of the Shema of Shema. It's in the brachas of Shema that we're saying that we're doing Omok Shemayim.
Are you telling me which way you're holding? Kriyat Shema Deraisa or Derabanan?
Derabanan.
You hold Derabanan?
Derabanan. I'm not asking if it's Derabanan or Deraisa. I'm just asking what the main focus of the bracha itself is. Is it Talmud Torah, or is it all Shemayim to always have it in all facets of your life, or is it to say just learning Torah? Because I was asking before, like in brachos, in the beginning of davening, we have Birchot Torah.
Right.
That's fulfilled.
What do you mean? That's a separate mitzvah saying Birchot Torah.
Is it Birchot Torah? Is it bracha on Talmud Torah? No.
Well, it's a separate idea. That the idea of Talmud Torah is supposed to be something that's part of your day. So you begin the tefillah with Birchot Torah because you're being koveya the yom for a day of limud.
All right, fine. So they are separate ideas.
That's why. What?
So the other one is. What's the other one? What's the second idea then of Kriat Torah? That one says that you should have a day of learning. So what's this one?
If you hold it's the Rabbanan, if Kriyat Shema is the Rabbanan,
Yeah.
or Kriyat Shema Deraisa,
Derabanan.
the Rabbanan. So if it's Kriyat Shema the Rabbanan, so then that's a separate obligation that b'shach b'chav kumecha you're supposed to be involved in shiur Torah. That you should be involved in learning Torah.
Alright.
And but the Chum instituted that should be through a specific Torah.
Alright. Alright.
It's a matter of the formulation. I mean, you guys are right. The differences Deraisa and Derabanan aren't as dramatic, which is exactly the way a machlokas should be. I mean, they shouldn't really be as far as hafuchas. They're not. But the question is, which one is correct? Is it essentially a mitzvah of Talmud Torah, but they picked Kabbalah Salmach Shemayim, or do you really see Kabbalah Salmach Shemayim as a separate Chal Hashem and a separate entity of mitzvah? Now, of course, are you Makayim Talmud Torah when you do that? Of course you are. You're reading Torah Shmichsav. Of course it is. Yeah.
Just a quick question. With the Rambam, just looking at Halacha Gimel, it would seem maybe that the Rambam would actually, in terms of at nighttime, if it didn't have the element of Yetzias Mitzrayim, then he would probably separate and not even mention at nighttime. It's just the quick mention of Zechirus Yetzias Mitzrayim that allows you to put it together with the rest of Shema at nighttime. Did you say that?
Right. Go ahead.
No, that was just a quick. I mean, it's just that. So I'm saying you see that it definitely works for Yetzias, for Zechirus Yetzias Mitzrayim.
Oh, for sure. For us?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't hold
And I'm saying enough to fulfill. Okay.
Let me put it. No, having you bring it up, in other words, according to us, since we hold that Kriyat Shema is Deoraisa, okay, we hold Kriyat Shema is Deoraisa. Okay, so let's forget about Shmuel now. Okay,
right.
And we're going to hold Emes Veyatziv is Derabanan. So what does that mean? We hold the opposite way. Okay, we hold Kriyat Shema is Deoraisa. Emes Veyatziv is Derabanan. So what do we mean by that? We mean to say is that there's a separate mitzvah Deoraisa of Kabbalah Salmach Shemayim called mitzvahs Kriyat Shema, right? And as I think the Rav pointed out in one of the Yortzeit shiurim, I don't remember if it was his idea or Reb Chaim's, I really don't remember, but that the idea of Kabbalah Salmach Shemayim is also accomplished through Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim. So there's a Deoraisa of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim, but there's no separate mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim. Why? Because it's part of Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. It's now been, it's folded under the umbrella of Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. So you're obligated to be Makabel Ol Malchus Shemayim through the idea of Yichar Hashem, Avas Hashem, Hashkachas Hashem, and then the specific event of Yetzias Mitzrayim. All those things
The entire
all bring you in touch with the idea of God's reality. Okay? So then you're Makayim Zechias Yetzias Mitzrayim. Now it's part of Ol Malchus Shemayim and Kriat Shema. Okay? And then now, what does it mean? Emes Veyatziv is Derabanan. It means the Chachamim took that idea and now extended it.
Right.
Now they took it, and Emes Veyatziv is taking Zechias Yetzias Mitzrayim and fleshing it out in a more fuller version that you really have a more in-depth idea and connection to the whole idea of remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim.
Right.
That's how we're going to learn.
But not every time that you're required to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim are you going to need to put that extra aspect of the Derabanan, because at nighttime you don't do you?
Sure you do. Then Menachon.
Oh, that also has Yetzias Mitzrayim. Look at it. I have to look at it. But yeah. Okay, so every time.
Moshe,
every time
Chanu Shira.
The
See that? I told you it's going to be helpful. Now you'll daven. You'll look at this. You'll look at it for these.
Every time you say the Man Tizkor, you need to have the Deraisa and the Derabanan.
It's there. I don't know if you would even have to. The Chum felt it was a worthwhile thing that to really to bring out these ideas to their full expression.
Maybe we'll explain why really should be massive. Should say Yeshem al Kechem right there.
All right.
You got to tie it together. Because it's really showing the Kim and that Yetzias Mitzrayim. Don't stop here. It's not over yet.
But if it's a Derabanan, then really you should stop. Like B'nai Yishalayim Amein and invention. You need to make a separation.
The mitzvah, to elaborate, their purpose is to elaborate on the mitzvah. It's not that you finish mitzvah and they're talking about something else. We are elaborating, giving you the full details of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Therefore, you shouldn't start with Yeshem al Kechem, because it looks like a new topic.
But there is an element of separating from Deraisa to Derabanan.
Anyway, here's separation of the Pasha.
Right.
Pasha is the separation itself.
Right. Okay.
I think I'm going to end here.
Yeah.
Thanks. Shout out to you guys.